Hey everybody, it's Peter and welcome to my very first video of 2023. We are going to go over in detail and review the Hyundai Palisade Ultimate Calligraphy. This is a vehicle that in a previous life last year and many years before that, I was trained on. I'm supposed to know this vehicle inside and out. I used to be known as an expert on this vehicle, so I'm going to try to show you some of the other things that the other videos aren't showing you in this video as we go through it. Now this has received an update, but we're going to talk about this 2022 model and maybe why it might be better for you, especially since there's such a long wait for some of these newer models. So let's first of all start with the 3.8 liter V6 engine out front. This thing is powerful. It's capable of towing up to 5,000 pounds, which is what you want in a 3-row SUV. This Ultimate Calligraphy is also nice as well. It's got captain's chairs here, and then you have a usable back seat with 3 seats back there, which if you're gonna call it usable, you're probably gonna go no more than 2 people back there. So 6 people comfortably, 7 people if you need to, and you can take this anywhere you want, anytime you want. You've got things like roof rails right here, which are unlike some of the other roof rails on the competitors. They stretch from the very front to the very, very back, which means if you're taking things like a long ski box or a longer canoe or kayak, you can really separate the bars out a long ways and make use of that. You've also got dual sunroofs on here and a whole bunch of safety stuff that we're going to talk about. One feature I want to point out while I'm standing beside it right now is this is one of the few vehicles in the Hyundai lineup, the Santa Cruz would be the other one, which has a height adjustable rear suspension. So when I say height adjustable, it's not really height adjustable, but it's load leveling. And that is a difference compared to some others that make SUVs in this class. Most of those are air suspensions, which are more prone to failure. This has a simple way of adjusting the oil in the shocks and that kind of thing. So whether you hitch a trailer on or stick a whole bunch of people back here, if it gets heavy in the back and the vehicle squats, you drive it around the block, and as it goes over bumps, this vehicle will level out to the sort of lip, the height that you see right here, making sure that you still have a smooth ride and the suspension has been restored to its proper ride height to give you great handling and to give you great height. This has been a hugely popular SUV. Let's go over and talk about why. If you're watching this video, you probably already know what the front end of the Palisade looks like, and you can debate whether you like this one better or whether you like the Kia Telluride better, which do share architecture, but they are actually built in separate plants for the North American market. The Kia Telluride is built in the States. These are usually built in Korea, so that's something to keep in mind. Now, in this sort of floating grille type thing, one of the things you don't see on the Ultimate Calligraphy is a little camera out front. This has a full 360-degree camera. We're going to show you that as we walk inside. There also is a radar plate down here, which is used for multiple things, in conjunction with a little camera that's hard to see up there in the windshield. All of those work together for safety. This Ultimate Calligraphy also has parking sensors here in the front that are a little bit hard to see on your camera. Combine that with LED lights and you've got really good safety. So let's talk about some of the safety things out front here first, and we'll talk about how they work inside when we get there. Radar plate is used for smart cruise control, which can keep the distance between you and the vehicle in front of you, and it's used for safety. It looks forward and helps identify things that the vehicle may have to emergency brake for. It also uses the camera. When you have in a Hyundai a camera like that and the radar plate, you have the most advanced forward collision avoidance system that they make, because the camera looks for some things, the radar plate looks for other things, and in an absolute emergency, do not test this, but in an absolute emergency, this vehicle is capable of stopping itself to avoid that collision. It's also capable of at least slowing down to minimize a collision as a safety function. The parking sensors as well can work towards beeping when things get closer. I believe on this one as well, it also is capable of stopping. Certainly when it reverses, it's capable of applying the brakes if it senses something coming too close to you as well. And it works with the camera system as well, so lots of safety. Now we talked about the lights out front. I haven't got them turned on right now because they're just going to flicker when they interact with the camera, but you've got some LED lights here that coordinate with these LED lights down here. They look like all one piece behind the bodywork. It's not. Those are just your daytime running lights. And these are your high and low beams for your headlights. Now those are projector beam LED headlights. In the Kia Hyundai lineup, there's a lot of LED headlights, but projector beam headlights are the best quality you can get. They are really sharp cutoff, really fine. In fact, the cutoff is so sharp that they won't actually light the highway light or the highway street signs that are reflective because the sharp cutoff is so bright. So a couple things that matter here. A lot of vehicles have LED lights and people hate them when they're oncoming towards you because they just feel like you've got your high beams on. And the reason that happens is because those LED lights are mounted high up on other SUVs and they're in the line of sight of other drivers. Hyundai mounts their lights low, so you still have a great view of the road, but you also have them out of the view of other drivers. Now, if it has such a sharp cutoff and it's mounted so low, how do you see things like the reflective stop signs, reflective highway signs? Well, that's what these LED lights do as well. They have a sort of dispersed light, which allows you plenty of light to see some of those reflective signs, which makes it pretty cool and very good for safety. You've also got fog lights down here, I believe. Oh, maybe not. Oh man, I'm thinking Kia Telluride. All right, made a mistake. Let's go around to the backside and look at a couple things there, and then we're gonna jump in and look at some of the safety and technology features. We'll walk you through some of them from the inside. All right, so the backside of the Hyundai Palisade, there's lots of safety features we could talk about as well. LED lighting, those kinds of things, the rear parking sensors, as well as the rear camera. Of course, rear cameras are standard now. That's not really something worth talking about. However, you have a lot of ways to pop the trunk. You can do what I just did. You can tap that button there, or you can tap your key fob. We're gonna show you the key fob in just a second. But the other thing you can do is a lot of your competitors require you to wave a foot underneath the bumper. You don't have to do that here. You can set this up with a smart tailgate system. What that means is that you can basically approach it with your proximity key. The same way your key knows to unlock the car when you touch the door handle when you're close, it's because it senses the key. You can set this up so I could just stand behind here. It will beep 5 times in 3 seconds and it will open itself up on its own. So if I was carrying a load of things here, I could stand here, beep, 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 and it will open up like that just by standing near here. You can turn that on or off. It's an option for you. It's a pretty cool function. In here, you've got some nice things. Down here, of course, the rear seats are up right now, and that means I have no real usable cargo area. This is fine. There is a little space down here, but there's a cargo net down here. That same cargo, or not cargo net, cargo cover. Same type of cargo cover, that roll blind type cover that you see in all sorts of SUVs. If you put these seats down, you can put that cover in here. That's something you don't see in a lot of SUVs like this, and it is able to be hidden under the floor, so you can still take it with you when you want it, but you don't have to have it with you when these seats are up. Let me show you one other feature here that I really like. We're looking over to the left side of the cargo area here into these buttons right here. You do have 12-volt ports, it's pretty standard stuff, but you also have the ability to remotely push the seats down, both the back row and the middle row, which is something the Kia Telluride did not have in 2022, but you do have it here on the Palisade. When we hop inside this, we're going to talk about the all-wheel drive system and the terrain modes. But before we do that, I want to talk about the all-wheel drive system on this car because it is excellent. So the way things work with a lot of SUVs in this class, whether they're front or rear wheel drive bias, this is a front drive bias, but it's an all-wheel drive car, it will use, or many of its competitors will spin the front tire before sending power to the back. Something like the Ford Explorer will spin the rear tire before sending power to the front. This all-wheel drive system is different. No matter what mode you have it in, when you're at a standstill, you put it in drive and you start to go, whether it's a stoplight, stop sign, or anything. If you're ready to drive, all 4 wheels are going to receive power. Now, as it senses that it maintains traction, it's going to move the power back to the front. However, it's never going to be more than 95 and 5%, so it doesn't have that real lurching kind of feel when it has to transfer power back to the rear wheel. What that does for you is it means when you're driving in snow and poor weather, and they'll claim that this thing can handle off-road, it's got a mud mode. It's not going to go in the mud unless you go camping and it gets muddy. But the point is, in the snowy, slippery weather that you're going to face in this type of vehicle, you don't have that squirrely feeling of losing traction, waiting for the other axle to gain traction, and then giving yourself traction. You get that kind of unsure feeling in the driver's wheel. This one's going to be super stable because it's always starting with all wheels, and it's going to sense that you still have traction before it takes away the power. If there's any slippage in any one of the 4 wheels, it's going to maintain that 4-wheel traction in a split that it makes sense. It's going to move power front and back, and you have a little bar graph in the dash that you can check. But the biggest thing to know is basically it's always starting in all-wheel drive, and then for efficiency purposes it will move to primarily front-wheel drive. but it's not going to do that in a slippery condition, which means when you're driving around corners, when you're accelerating from a stop, it's always going to put yourself in a situation where all wheels are driving unless you don't need them driving. And that means that when you're driving, you don't have that squirrely feeling of having that car really move around, trying to figure out where the traction is. You're going to have a really solid feel, and it works really well in poor weather. One other thing I like about poor weather is all the doors here, front and rear, but we're going to use the rear doors to open. They wrap right around the car. So as I open this up, even though it looks like there's sort of a door ending in this area, it wraps around. So when you have that here, when you're getting out of a taller vehicle, oftentimes you're going to rub your pant leg on the side of the sill here of a taller vehicle. And in the Canadian winters, that is salty and dirty and gross, and you get dirty pant legs. You're not going to have that here because you have a little rubber seal here, and the doors wrap all the way around. It keeps you clean, takes care of you. Let's take a look at some of the technology inside this car. So normally when we talk about technology, we talk about the front seats of the car, but I want to show you the middle row seats here first. First of all, these are just really comfortable and really pretty and nice leather. They've got little perforations throughout the seat, which not only look nice, but they are actually functional even in the middle row seats here. You have armrests here, which are they can come up and down, and they can move at a good spot, so you've got room to clear through. If you've got a dog or something like that and just 4 people you're taking with you, it's very nice to have that rear seat folded down and have it kind of just have the dog be able to come right through to the center area. Very nice area. Let's go wide angle just for a second here. We switched the camera there. All right, let's jump in here and check this out. First of all, a couple things I really like. You've got little blinds here. Now the camera does a good job of sort of compensating there, but this adds quite a bit of shade. It can clip up here on the tabs right there, and it adds shade for those in the back seat, but it also gives you extra privacy if you have stuff in the back seat. People can't see through from the outside period. And these are all tinted windows anyways, but that gives you some extra privacy there as well. Seats, like I said, very comfortable. Headroom is absolutely fine, but let's jump in here and show you a couple things. First of all, pockets are pretty much standard in a lot of vehicles in this class, but you also have a nice little cell phone style pocket right here. That's handy because if you're putting an iPad or a cell phone or something else in there, you're going to need to keep them charged, right? Well, you have a USB port over here on the seat and a USB port over there on the seat. And in fact, any seat you sit in here, you've got access to USB ports to make sure that it is very comfortable. Now, like I said, what if you have a laptop or something? Well, no problem. You've got a proper plug sitting down there. You've also got a 12-volt port to plug in something else. You also have a full dual zone temperature control, or dual zone. This will be your rear zone temperature control back here. You can set it to auto. You can change the temperature. It's exactly as if you're sitting in the front seats. And you may also notice another front seat feature sitting there is you have ventilated and heated seats. Those are 3 levels of rump roasters, 3 levels of seat ventilation. Your middle row passengers are going to be extremely comfortable. Speaking of comfort, these seats are exactly like front seats. They are very, very comfortable. You can recline them, you can move them forward or back, you can create extra room for the third row space, but what I like is this up here. You have a massive sunroof here in addition to a massive sunroof for the front seat passengers. Now you'll also notice that you have some LED lighting up here and you have the vents here. So when we have a rear seat passenger, we're not just sticking like floor vents or console vents in there, we're sticking the vents right near where they affect the passengers so they can feel warm, feel cool, whatever they need to feel right away. So not only are you comfortable for great seats, you've got great ventilation, you've got great comfort with heated and ventilated seats as well, and all of the things that you need, including the temperature controls, are right there. And I gotta admit, this is pretty cool. Now, one other thing with the Ultimate Calligraphy, you can kind of see it here. I'm gonna draw lines in the roof. They probably don't like me doing that here. But this is a sort of suede headliner. It feels very much like a luxury vehicle in here because it really is. All right, let's jump to the front seat and check out the technology over there. Before we even sit in this, let's take a look at the adjustments on the seat. This is the absolute best seat you can get from Hyundai, and it has regular adjustments front and back, up, down, everything else that you would have, tilt the back. You've got a 4-way lumbar. A lot of them only have 2-way lumbars. You got a 4-way lumbar support here, and then you have this extra little button here, and this is kind of genius. I have a little bit longer legs, and if I wanted to get comfortable here, check out that right there as I push this button. This extends out. Now, it doesn't look like it moves too much on video, but I can tell you it really does move a long ways in person, and it really supports your legs. It's much longer than a typical seat, and for someone my size, I never get support like that out there. But if you're a shorter person, that's going to be too long of a seat, and that allows you to move this back in there, to curl it back down, to make sure that you can share this vehicle, switch drivers, be perfectly comfortable no matter what. All right, let's jump in here. Let's go wide angle again here. I didn't show you the key yet, so we're going to do that Try to do it while we're in the wide angle, that'll work, yep. All right, so we've got lock, unlock, remote start, remote, you can hold that to pop the trunk, and you've got your horn button, and that's it on the key. Nice and simple, fairly compact key, nice and comfortable in your pocket, which I think is what most people are looking for. While we're talking about the seats, we should mention that you do have the memory seats here, power memory seats. You also have window switches there, and again, it's just a great overall look. We also should talk about the Harman Kardon sound system, which is fantastic. I probably won't mention that again, so make sure you remember that. All right, jumping in here. First thing I'm going to do is start it all up. I'm also going to make sure that my rump roasters are on because, just like the back seat, I want to have rump roasters. I have seat ventilation as an option. We're going to talk about this in 1 second, but before I forget, down here is a massive space. If you are the kind of person who carries a purse with you, that is a great spot for that. There's a 12-volt port over here. On the other side, in the same spot, there's a USB port down there. There are USB ports everywhere in this car. Why don't we just take a quick peek at in here? Down here, you have wireless charging for your phone. You also have a USB port in there. You also have the cup holders in here, but if you have them sort of set like I do right now, you can set other large items here if you want. Push these little buttons right here, bam, bam, and you've got cup holders sitting right there. You can close that out. In the armrest here are more USB and 12-volt ports there. So USB on the left, 12-volt on the right, and lots of good things in there. All right, we're going to talk about the drive modes, we're going to talk about other things, but let's just first start with looking at this beautiful screen. This is a 12.3-inch display screen here. I could show you a whole bunch of different options in here, but the point is you can customize this in some ways. It is very, very good. One of the things I like about it is a lot of the time Hyundai puts your digital speedometer in the center here, not allowing you to see certain things in the center. You know, like it just eliminates something like this view right here. So here you've got the ability to use the center of the gauges, so you have the analog gauges, which work like that. The tach goes backwards, a little bit odd, but it works fine. And then you have this gauge in the middle. So remember when I was telling you about the all-wheel drive system in this car? Well, what this gauge does here is it creates a bar graph showing you exactly how much power is heading to each wheel. So if I was to put it in drive right now and release just for a second, oh, I don't want to actually do that because I'm going to go too far. Anyways, the point is these will fill in with bar graphs so you can see your all-wheel drive system at work and see different things. One of the things I really like here is if you signal, you've got the mirrors right over here. So, instead of your mirrors, you've got a camera. Let's see if I can zoom in even closer. So this is a view of exactly the side of the car. Part of the reason I didn't move too far forward is because that camera there. Now that camera foot leg is behind the wheel, so we're fine. But the point is, when you signal, what it does is it uses the side camera in the mirror. Let's just zoom out here again, we'll go fully wide angle. So there's a camera underneath that mirror and it looks behind us into our blind spot. So you have the cameras, you have blind spot detection, there's a little light in the mirror, and then you also have a camera sitting right there, which also looks behind you. Now what's pretty cool about that is if I turn the signal off for a second, the same thing happens on the right side, and I put this car in reverse for a second, you're going to have this view here. So what's cool about this is this camera right here in that mirror that we're looking, the one that was used to look backwards is now repurposed to look down, and you can see all around the vehicle because the camera now looks down, which is a pretty cool way of doing things. And of course you can have all sorts of different views here. If you just want to repurpose the camera again, there's repurposing the camera. Now I can parallel park left and right sides. There I can see how close I am to the curb. I can go right down to straight down if I'm hitching a trailer, although I think this one still works better if you're hitching a trailer. So you can do all kinds of things with the backup camera, and what's really cool is it doesn't just show you sort of the curvature of the car in the back, it also shows you where the front is going to swing. So if you go forward, if you go in reverse like that, it'll tell you. But if I drive forward, you can see when I drive forward, the camera stays up for a while in slower speeds, and it shows you where the right side's going to swing. So if you're going to in a drive-through and you have a little bit longer vehicle than you're used to, you're going to see, hey, if that yellow line crosses, I'm at risk of damaging, running over that curb, running into that pylon, because it shows you not just where the front wheels are curving, but where the rear wheels will swing into. So front and rear has that, which is pretty cool stuff. I really like that. We're gonna put the car in park for a second. We're gonna talk about some other things here. Let's just talk about this navigation screen. There's lots of things you have here. A lot of things we can go through in here. We'll have to do a whole separate video to go through some of it. But one of the things I really like is when you swipe through this, or there's other ways to get to this function, you have what's called the passenger talk icon. Passenger talk allows me to tap this button and I can talk, and I don't know if you can hear it echoing in here, but what this is doing is taking my voice and using the same microphone it would use for the Bluetooth system right up here for your cell phone, and it's broadcasting me to the speakers, or into the speakers in the rear of the vehicle, meaning my third row passengers can hear me. Now what's cool about that is Yes, they're 3 rows away, but maybe they're sitting there listening to their earbuds or something like that, listening to their own music, and you could sit there and talk to them and make sure they can hear you. And when I say they're listening to their own music, one of the features you can do in here is hit quiet mode. What quiet mode does is turns off the rear speakers and turns the front speakers only to volume level 7. So that allows you, you could turn the volume up from here, but the idea is it turns off the rear speakers. Sure, you could let kids in the rear seat sleep, but you could also allow them to listen to their own music in their earbuds and have your own music up here on the actual speakers, which is a pretty cool function to have as well. We'll leave that sort of as it is. Lots of stuff we can show you in here. Actually, why don't we just go back? Why don't we go back to showing you that map, and we'll cycle through a couple things here. You got weather in the area. It can show you weather. There's all kinds of things. In fact, there's actually a radar map you can see. Maybe we should just sort of show you that. I used to like showing that. So let's just see if we've got the radio with the radar, Doppler radar. Oh, no information received. That's okay. So we can't get that right where we are right now, but that can work in various areas as well. So pretty cool stuff. All right, let's just take a quick look at the dash down here. Tri-zone climate control, passenger side, driver side, rear. They can set to different temperatures if you want. You've got a clean air system in here. That's more than just the regular filter that you have in most cars. That is a filter with an ion filter. There's no maintenance to the ion filter, but if you have allergies like me, that is a great feature that really cleans the air and helps you with something like allergies. All right, push button gear shift. Some people say it's controversial, some people say it's not. I don't hate it, it's fine. It definitely cleans up the dash, makes it easier. And that means if you want to manually shift, you have to use the paddle shifters here, which I don't think most people are going to be manually shifting. But if you are towing a trailer or for a reason you want to manually shift, you do have that option. We showed you the heated seats, heated steering wheel, all that kind of stuff. Let's talk very quickly about the drive modes here. First of all, Eco. Let's talk about what Eco does. Eco does not get you better mileage. It does not solve all your problems. Basically, if you are an economical driver anyways and you're driving economically, you want the vehicle to shift early. You want it to get into the highest gear possible, and it will work with you. If you want to drive normally, you just put it in comfort, and if you want to drive a little bit more aggressively, you go into sports. Sport mode is good for towing a trailer as well, keeps the revs higher, those kind of things. I don't use sport mode always for towing a trailer, but certainly holding revs on a hill, sport mode would work. Now what smart mode does, that's the mode I really recommend you drive in, because a lot of us will find ourselves driving economically at times. The problem with eco mode is if you head out onto the highway and really want to give it some throttle, Eco mode is going to resist that downshift. Some people find it an awkward mode to drive in when you need power. Smart mode is going to sense, hey, you need power, I'll move you out of eco mode, I'm going to put you into comfort. And in fact, I'll move you out of comfort mode, I'll put you in sport. So the smart mode senses the way you drive and will default to giving you good fuel efficiency or working with you for great fuel efficiency. But if you get into the throttle, it's going to give you comfort and sport mode automatically, which works really well. Switch over to the terrain mode, you have snow, mud, and sand, and that changes your all-wheel drive parameters, your throttle mapping. It can change your ABS types, or your wheel speed sensors, I should say, to sense what's going on for different scenarios and help to give you traction. Now again, this is not a fully off-road vehicle, but there are things that it can change to adjust as you're going. One thing to keep in mind is you do not have to have it in snow the second it snows. Sometimes people think, oh no, it's snowing, I gotta put it in snow mode. You always have that all-wheel drive system active at all times. It's just it optimizes for the conditions right there. So pretty cool system right there. Really briefly, we should talk about comfort. This is a comfortable vehicle. It is probably the most comfortable Hyundai that they make. I used to own a Santa Cruz with a lot of these features here. This is a much more roomy vehicle. It is a great family road trip vehicle. A couple things I like: the smart cruise control in this car. We talked about that, using the camera up behind the mirror here, using the radar plate. You can set that up and allow this car to sort of keep its distance from vehicles in front of you. Makes it super comfortable on a long trip. You also have things like lane keeping assist. It can help you steer for itself to help sort of keep it in the lane. All kinds of safety features that we really don't have time to talk about too much. But if you have a question, let me know, because I've been trained on this vehicle. I can answer those questions for you. I'd be happy to give you more information. So I always like to finish these videos off by talking about who is this vehicle for. Well, if you're familiar with the Hyundai lineup or the Kia and Hyundai lineup, you're going to be familiar with some of the technologies. Although if your vehicle is just a few years older, you won't have many of the technologies in this vehicle. This is a vehicle that is as easy to drive as a Santa Fe, and frankly as easy as a Tucson. They're not that large from the driver's seat, but it is a larger vehicle. It gives you that spaciousness you want inside. It's also got great technology, whether you're doing a long road road trip and it's just got safety technology that makes it less tiring, or whether you're in emergency situations, or more importantly, you want to avoid emergency situations altogether, this car has great technology for that. It's a great family road trip car. It's a great vehicle that can fit a lot of people. If you're a real estate agent regularly wanting to take adults around, you've got lots of space in this vehicle with something that is all-wheel drive, has sure-footed traction, and it's a pretty good value. When you compare things from Honda and Toyota and frankly some luxury makes, you're getting a whole lot more for your money in this one, along with a great warranty. So is this a vehicle that's right for you? Well, this one and the Kia Telluride are very, very similar, but there are some key differences. Like I said, those buttons in the back that fold those seats, that's a little different. Some of the lighting setup is a little different. We mentioned the lack of fog lights on this one, which I don't think matters because of how low those lights are down. I used to have a Santa Cruz, as I mentioned. It has headlights down low, and again, because you had such wide, low spread, not the end of the world to not have those fog lights, but you do have top quality lights here. So again, great value, great vehicle, nice to drive, tows up to 5,000 pounds. I probably wouldn't tow that much, but the point is you can tow a little bit more than the average midsize SUV and still have sort of that midsize feeling in a just slightly larger package. It's a good SUV, I'm a fan of it. So before we go, if you want to see this SUV, we are here at Jim Gilbert's, Canada's huggable car dealer. This is the absolute best car dealer in the world, but let's just go with Canada for actually caring about you, taking care of you. If you want to compare this to its competitors, they've got virtually all of them sitting next to them over here, so you can compare it. You can get the same numbers from the same salesperson that doesn't care which brand you buy. He just wants, or that salesperson just wants to make sure that you're happy. And I want to thank them for giving me full access to their cars, because if you have questions that you want answers to, I can come back to this vehicle and answer them on video. So make sure you subscribe. If I did my job, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button and let me know. And thanks Jim Gilbert's for allowing me to have access to their vehicles. Thanks already for watching.